Good to meet you, Erica.
Nice to meet you.
I'm not sure how this
Yeah, I mean, I
works.
can do that.
Yeah, because okay, everybody, I'm a middle-aged man doing TikTok. Hey, what's up, y'all? We're at Radio Bristol, the Birthplace of Country Music Museum, with Erica and Scotty.
Hi.
Yeah, so today we have William Isom from an organization called Black in Appalachia. So when did you guys just start? When did you kind of formally start Black in Appalachia?
In 2012. So this is our 10th year anniversary.
But, you know, especially the map of Black Bottom really, you know, that really interested me because I've grown up in that particular, like that area of Bristol. And
particularly with the Bristol Black Bottom stuff, like we wanted to, and a lot of this work is just about like, and it may sound kind of corny, but it's all about like kind of quilting together, like finding these scraps of history. And the Black Bottom mapping project kind of came out of conversations with people, with Renee and other people in Bristol, Tina McDaniel, about like, how can we make this thing that's invisible now? Black Bottom's this community that used to be in Bristol, this black business section, was urban removed, right? It's right here. But we learned from other people doing similar things. So like, Ashley Minner in Baltimore, who's mapping the Lumbee Reservation community that used to be in Baltimore. We shared information back and forth about like how do you make this community that's no longer there more visible, and how do you document the history? And so
what is your process for tackling the history of Black communities in Appalachia?
There's two different kind of entry points for the process in documenting Black history for us in the work that we do. One is just the general posing of the question, like through engagement with different components of Black history. So we may be reading through an old journal or an article and come across something that's really interesting and will spark a question. Well, finding out that there was a church or a school somewhere where you had no idea that there were ever Black folks. And so the questions then become, okay, what happened to the Black community there? Like, what was the Black community that used to be there? Why did they leave? The posing of the question internally within our organization as we're doing research is kind of one of those entry points for process. But another more active and labor-intensive component of the process is like when archives or museums or community members or small community organizations approach us and say, hey, we need some help doing X. And so we don't go into communities and just start working without an invitation. You know, the Kingsport, City of Kingsport Archives has been a good partner for us. Like they invited us in because they were like, you know, Brianne there was like, hey, we don't have anything to exhibit. And so it's like, okay, how do we help them and community members like just gather these quilt pieces together to make something that's visible and understandable to people. And so we produced some banners with the archives there. About 50, maybe even 60% is done like going into like the basement of the courthouse and getting the old school records out and sitting and scanning them in for a week, and then spending the next, 6 months cleaning them up and organizing, cataloging them and putting them up online. Alana Norwood is our head community archivist, and she's the one that's like right now, she's never not busy. The Carter County schools, the rural Black Carter County schools, the one-room schoolhouses, scanning that stuff in and making those records available. Because even at the state level, we had such a tough time finding any information about the rural Carter County Black schools. If you didn't know any better, you'd think that they didn't exist, but we kept seeing little mentions of this school and that school, Roan Mountain. And so we knew that they were there. And so eventually, through Alana's tenacity, she located the records and scanned them in. Because of COVID, we've not been able to sit down with community members like we like to, like Mama will bring in a big bucket of photographs and she tells us who's all in them and scan them in. So
you recently bought a field office, though.
It's the field office has been really great. We set it up. We bought the building, and so in August of this year we purchased the building after renting it for a year, and it's been really instrumental to the work that we're doing because we can keep our equipment there, tables, chairs, tabling materials, our T-shirts. But we can also sit there and work. Community members can meet us there, and we can do oral histories there. We can keep all of our, like I said before, clip files. And we've got like a little research room that we're developing now it's strategically located so we can hit the coal fields of Southwest Virginia. We can hit Middlesboro in Eastern Kentucky, all in an hour. We can get up here to Bristol in an hour. We can get to Knoxville in an hour. We can be in the Smoky Mountains in Cott County in an hour. So, yeah. So the fundraiser right now, we owe about $110,000 on the building, and so we've raised about $5,000 so far. And if anybody wants to donate to our building fund, they can go to blackandappalachia.org.
Tell us a couple of stories of histories you've uncovered.
And for me, not just in that place, but all over the region, is the story of these teachers in these one-room schoolhouses. Like, they actually have, like, you know, most of them born like in the 1880s, 1890s, and lived through and taught through the 1930s and 40s. Are some of the most interesting stories that like. You can just literally go into the school record and pick one person out. For example, this Beulah School, which is a one-room schoolhouse in Greene County or Hamilton County, I pulled out Henrietta Crawford. And so she was born in the 1890s, but she was one of 10 kids, and at least 4 of those children were also teachers. So she was a teacher, and several of her siblings were also, at least almost half of her siblings were also teachers. Her father was a farmer, and her mother was a farmer. So you had like this farming family that made sure like his kids went to school, and like not only went to school, but become educators themselves. She tragically died at the age of 26 by tuberculosis. And so that's something else, is like oftentimes like these stories are terrible at some point because life was hard. There's another teacher that I had been researching in regards to that school, was Mary Cassie Elizabeth Cannon Carson. She passed away in Eastern State, which is the mental hospital in Knoxville. And so it said that she passed away from exhaustion and senile psychosis. And so you had this, you know, what was that like in the 1950s? And I'd mentioned this earlier about the lynching of Robert Clark in Bristol. One really interesting story related to that was there was at least one person that came out to protest what was going on with the lynching of Robert Clark. And that was Reverend Charles Henry Johnson, who founded Lee Street Baptist Church. Oh. That used to be across the street from Catty Corner here. So he came out and protested the lynching as this black man in 1891. Like, you've got a lynch mob, and he came out and was like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he said that if we had all stuck together, they wouldn't have been able to do this. And they pulled out pistols on him and told him, "Be quiet or you're next." And so